We are the most connected generation in our history as a country. Interestingly, we have the numbers, we have the knowledge and the energy. It's the energy is actually unmatched. But then when it comes to talking about political power, when it comes to talking about power, when it comes to talking about real power, we oftentimes are not at the table. And it begs the question, why? And more importantly, what do we need to do differently? How do we get to change that narrative? And how do we get to move the needle? Let's face it, in Nigeria, politics is actually the playground of the elites. We talk about godfatherism, you also talk about pockets of violence during elections, you talk about patronage. Of course, in some cases, you might even say that you can't do without those. But yes, that's what it is. The irony of this is the fact that about 60% of our population as a country is of people under the age of 30. If that would actually communicate anything, it means that the future isn't coming. You know how they say, oh, you are the leaders of tomorrow and all of that narrative. That future is not coming. It means the future is here. And it's based off of what we shape out of it that we get to have. If you really want to go down memory lane, you want to take a look at people like Yakubu Gowon, you don't look at many of our leaders, you would realize that it was when even the face-off between Ojukwu and Gowon was their early 30s. So you would see that that youthful age, it was within these very same brackets that they took the steering. So if we fail to take the steering, then I'm afraid that will be driven or led by people who do not understand our dreams, people that do not understand our aspirations, and they will take us to where we do not know. Or you get the vibe. We've seen the consequence of having to stay passive. We've seen youth unemployment, we've seen brain drain in our country, we've seen insecurity, we've seen bad governance. But the honest truth is we cannot just stay angry without organizing with a strategy. If you don't have a strategy in place, if you're not organizing, then that in itself is stagnation. Hello, my name is Ajibola Oladiipo, and it's another episode on the Diary of a Patriot. There's this silent frustration, that's rising across Nigeria when it would interest you to know that young people are at the center of it. Young Nigerians are the center of that frustration. Of course, the numbers and all of the energy and all that they have to do, that energy is there and at the center of that frustration, particularly because the Nigerian youths are the biggest beneficiary or victim of the frustrations. They are hit the most by it because you have that productive energy toward the end. It's sad to say that we're a generation full of potential, but sadly locked out of power. And the honest truth is that we have to find a way to break free. See, let's get it right. We've proven ourselves in so many areas. Look into tech, look into art, look into entrepreneurship. You'd see amazing Nigerians doing so great in their career. But one thing that gets to define everything is political leadership. And that's one thing we still need to reinvent and actually act. We need to understand it, we need to get it right, and we actually need to prove ourselves in that area as well. And the honest truth is, if we are saying that, oh, we're doing fine without political leadership, it is a grave mistake because it's a very dangerous vacuum to be left. In fact, leadership doesn't have a vacuum. So if you are leaving it open, some other people are ready and willing to hijack it. So it must be in the right hands. The right hands has to be on the steering. And the truth of the matter is that the problem is old. And the problem isn't just old, it's the old way of doing politics. Our generation is not lazy, we are underutilized, of course. And the cost of that is showing everywhere. We've talked about unemployment, people having to jackpot, and the silence, the pain in aspiration of hope that something is going to change. But yes, we actually have to find a way. We need to find a way. We need to find a redeem out of it. So whether we're going to adapt or force our way out of it, we must find a solution. So talk about godfatherism, talk about election violence, talk about the manipulation of ethnicity and religion. You talk about politics with ideology. Personally, I have an issue with that. Politics and ideology, I have a very big issue with it. We need to also um, begin to see and have issues with the fact that we stick to we're very short-term driven in Nigeria, and it shows in how we handle policy as well. We think from election to election, we're not thinking long-term. In many cases, you're not even seeing across sectors, you're not seeing a 50, 100-year plan on how things are supposed to be done. I was speaking with my boss recently and was talking about how that the water that people in the state of Texas currently, I think Dallas specifically, that they are actually drinking was paid for 40 years ago. That's visionary leadership. They saw a need 40 years ago and they fixed it. Of course, they are benefiting from it. Of course, there are probably, not probably, there are mechanisms in place to ensure sustainability and continuity. But that's what visionary leadership is going to spot the possibility of an issue 40 years before and ensure that there's a way to fix it. So we need to also combat this whole short-termism. Yes, that's what I would call it, just short-term, less noodles. You know how you could make noodles very fast. So let's just flip from election to election. Within the first 2 years, we're trying to stabilize. The first year, we still have election cases. The second year, you start governance. By the third year, actually, towards the end of second year, you need to start thinking of second time in office. That's costing us a whole lot. Honestly, yes, you can actually accidentally become a public servant, but the truth of the matter is that bad leadership is not accidental. It's a product of deliberate systems. And if there's any concept that I recently have taken more seriously, it's systems thinking. And we have to be very systematic in our thinking. We must be very holistic, else we'll be running in silos. Those systems are deliberate. It's structurally and strategically in that way so that things do not change. And so we have a lot to combat, we have a lot to fight, we have a lot to fix. We have a cause to fight for. And trust me, this is not a call for us to say that young people, it's time to replace the old. No, it's way far from this. We must also lead differently. Again, I was talking about visionary leadership, because if we enter the system and behave the same way, then we will also become the problem, because that's the case. That's actually that's the issue that we are. Many of the people that what's it called, painted themselves as a solution to many of these problems some years ago, saw this kind of scenario as the problem. But a couple of things definitely didn't change in their methodology, their approach to things, and we can clearly see the outcomes. So if we do not make iterations in that regard, we would end up becoming the problem or new problems instead of solutions. What exactly does it look like when you say we are leading differently? I'm talking about we placing integrity over opportunities. Of course, there are so many opportunities, mouth-watering opportunities that will come your way, but at what cost? At what cost? How much is too much? How much is too much? Where do you get to draw the line? What's your take on integrity? We must also begin to see that politics is not an hustle. It is a responsibility. It's a cloak of responsibility. Recently, I was reading from an excerpt from an interview with Prince Tajuddin Olusi, where I was talking about Oluwole Awolowo. They had approached the late Obafemi Awolowo and what's it called, pushed the idea of Oluwole, his son, becoming a councillor. And Obafemi Awolowo kicked against that idea. He didn't like it. He didn't want it. Not because he looked down on what it means to be a councillor, but for you to see how grave the responsibility of what politicking was at that time. But now it's literally like an also. We actually need to stop idolizing corrupt successful leaders. Yes, we need to stop idolizing them. We need to find a way to ensure that we place integrity above all things. I know that this is a very serious issue that probably take decades before we're able to solve, particularly since integrity in itself is something that can be very fluid in the sense that you can place, some people say, oh, this is ethically or morally acceptable to me. When in actual sense, we know that some things shouldn't be ideal. So people can, when we have gray areas, it takes time. So, but then more importantly, you personally should place your integrity over opportunities. Issues-based politics, not personality cults. And I've said it before on the Diary Patriot, and I'm saying it again. Yes, I do it sometimes. Yeah, I actually do it. I have people that I stand. But it's very important that we look ourselves in the mirror and tell ourselves the truth. We must do politics based off of ideology and not just a mob in the sense that, oh, is this person or not, is my ride or die, it's my last breath. All those kind of things. It shouldn't, your leader is not infallible. He can make mistakes. Or those leaders that you adore, and we must be able to hold them to account. We should be able to hold them to responsibility. So let's stop elevating messiahs. Let's stop creating messiahs out of people, of these people, and elevating them. We need movements. We need ideas. We don't need saviors. We don't need slogans. We don't need a new messiah. Jesus Christ had died. We don't need another messiah. So let's just stick to ideology. Let's stick to ensuring we solve problems. See, if you're planning to be a leader, then you must actually also prepare yourself for the future. You should read policy documents. Do you understand what it means to actually like come through? Have you ever seen a copy of Nigeria's budget before? Do you understand it reading through it? These are things that you have to be very, very deliberate about doing. You should build capacity, invest in yourself, study history. Study history. You must learn to govern before you get into power. We cannot afford to make governance a vibes and inshallah thing. We must understand it critically before we get into position of power. And more importantly, let's start locally and build upwards. Everyone targets, or everyone, most times, our eyes are always on the person in Aso Rock. But most importantly, we should also understand that real power begins at the ward level, in your local government, at the state level. Powers are domiciled there. That's where policies directly touch lives. And as young leaders, that's where we must build movements. That's where we must stamp our feet. Let's go back to our communities. Let's establish our presence. Let's mobilize people. Let them have clear understanding of what is going on. Let them not be brainwashed. Do you understand? Before they are brainwashed, give them a proper format of what something should be. Let them be on the same page with you. That's leadership. That's leadership. Before you get the flag of your party as the standard bearer, plant the flag of your ideas. Plant it on the feet of what happens in your ward. Associate with these people. Know what the pain points are. Understand it, contextualize it, find solutions in that micro level. Let's do that. Leadership is that's how to build capacity. And also we must learn to work together. I want to be governor, you want to be governor. Everybody cannot be governor, for instance. Everybody cannot be president. Or more importantly, at the same time. So we must also learn to work together. We must learn how to compromise. We must learn how to consolidate what we are working. So you can imagine if 50 people are trying to do different things isolated, and you're actually like unknowing to yourselves, or at some point it becomes knowing that you're actually doing the same thing. Now imagine if you put energy, you put resources together to push the very same agenda, to push the same very cause. You will actually have better results, most likely. So I think we would actually have better results. So it's very important that we learn to collaborate. We must be open to collaboration. We must be open to collaboration. We must learn to negotiate. There are times that you have to drop off some things. There are times that you have to delay your gratification. Yes, I know you want this at this point in time. But for the greater good, can you hold off on that and focus on the benefits or the dividend of what is actually going to reach your people? So I'd ask you, what can you do now? Honestly, I would always advise if you, particularly if you intend or desire to actually be in political positions, I would always say join a political party. Not just for the sake of elections, but for internal reforms. And that's one of the reasons why I am always trying to talk about political ideologies and why ideology-based party politics is very important. You can imagine when we have quality candidates jostling for the tickets of a party. At the end of the day, yeah, you're exposed to the political part. So, but if the best of the best are politicking and fighting for the tickets, it means that political parties will give us better candidates. They'll give us stronger candidates. In fact, they won't even want to push anyhow candidates. Yeah, they want a popular candidate who can win votes, but they are also very conscious of the fact that they want quality. So join a political party. Find a political party that resonates with your thinking, your ideology, your whatever metrics. Join a political party. Support youth candidates with integrity. Emphasis on with integrity or that align with your values is very important because we talk about, oh, this is a very wise man. Someone was recently saying something about how that, oh, we talk about, oh, we have wise people in old age, and someone says, oh, foolish people too grow old. That means that, so what happens to their folly when they grow old? So it means that you would always have people with different agendas. So it's very important that we double down on integrity and values. When you find those candidates, support them. If you're a student and you have interest in politics, run for student union elections, participate in student association meetings, in your community, join CDAs and CDCs, actively participate and contribute. Don't just be a member, don't just loaf around, actively participate. Use that as opportunity to learn how to organize. We must know how to organize. Again, we must know how to organize. It's very, very important to learn how to organize people, particularly when you're working towards a goal. Organize, organize. So those are like that's your launching pad. Leverage it. And yes, fund youth movements as well. Let your money go into, put your money where your mouth is. Might not be the candidate. Someday you'll be the candidate, but learn to put your money where your mouth is. I remember the 2023 general elections. I voted in my family compound anyways, where my ancestors all landed in Amunugu. And I remember that very morning, we have someone speaking and saying, "Oh, everyone should come out and do this, and that." And I was speaking about how that, "Oh, let's do this." You never can tell. Someone might do this for our own son tomorrow too. And that's to let you see how much premium they place on that. Those are people. Those are people, anyways. That's to let you see how much premium they place on actually like sticking out and putting their resources. They actually did mobilize people. They mobilize people. Oh, this one and that. Funny enough, 2023 elections. You remember that there was cash crunch and all. People were willing to give their cash to ensure that there was movement for people to ensure that they just had a seamless movement. And these are people that don't even belong to the political party. in quotes. So I'm saying that learn to put your money or your money where your mouth actually is. Fund those movements. Support causes you believe in substantially with your resources. Use your platform as well, whether you have five followers or 1,000 or 50,000 or 5 million. Learn to leverage your platform. There was someone I met in front of the University of Ibadan Gates during the election period as well, and it would actually amaze you the kind of energy with which she took these things. We just had a very brief conversation. She didn't have a PVC. She, yeah, beyond that, we got her to not just get a PVC, she actively became a member of the political parties. At that point, I was just wild. I was actually amazed at the energy of. So that was just a conversation with just one person. So imagine what happens with 5, 10, 20. I have a lot of examples, anyways, but I'm singling that out specifically. And that's to let you see how a platform and opportunity to interact can actually change the course of things. So if you believe in something, use your platform for it. Fund it with your resources, no matter how tiny you think it is. There's space for everyone. You don't have to be a politician to drive political change. You don't have to contest for office to drive political change. My mom says that all the time. You don't have to contest for a political position to drive political change, but you must actually be part of that system. You must involve yourself in that system. You must acclimatize yourself with that system. You must understand that system and play that game. See, the truth of the matter is that every generation gets a chance to shape the nation's story. This is our own opportunity, not tomorrow. Now is our time. It's not when we are ready. It's actually now. And if you would have learned anything from all that I have been saying, I've been trying and systematically trying to let us understand that we're not just taking power for the sake of hijacking power, but to use it wisely, compassionately, to strategically use power, and more importantly, selflessly, so that we can help people. Power in the wrong hands can actually destroy. Oh, yes, we actually have seen a lot of examples of how power in the wrong hands have destroyed things. But in the right hands, particularly youthful hands that has clarity, with courage and a good conscience, power can actually build things. Power can reform a nation, and power in itself can heal. Let's not just be a generation of people that complain. No, let's be a generation that actively gets involved to change things. We are the ones that we ourselves have been waiting for. No, there's nobody that is actually going to come to help us. We actually have to fix the mess by ourselves. If you don't mind me asking, how are you preparing to lead differently? You want to lead right? How are you planning to lead differently? What do you think you would be doing differently? How do you envisage what's it called, your approach to turn the tides of things around? If this kind of conversation matters to you, I'm pretty sure that you must have learned something, or this must have actually rekindled some fire in your heart. Please, I would really appreciate that you share this video with someone that you think should actually see this. Please like the video. You can actually also drop your comments. Let me know your thoughts. And it's so good to have you here. Thank you for your time. And the honest truth is we're getting started, and I'll see you next time. Bye.